Hey, we are live. Welcome to the Killer Beco podcast. I'm Damian, along with my good buddy Josh. I'm coming from New Jersey. Josh, of course, has come from the great state of Texas. And yeah, Texas Tactical, thank you for finding us and being the first comment. Awesome.
Yeah, and I don't know anything about you, Texas Tactical, but you should shoot me an email. I think my stuff's in the bottom of the thing.
Yeah.
And we should reach out and see, how close we are.
Right. Because again, along with the online training videos and the programs, we have live instructors. Josh is one of our top instructors. So if you get an opportunity to work out with him, please, by all means, do it. Even if, you're training with him, let's say like once a month, once every few months, it doesn't matter, because along with that, along with the videos and everything works together. So you don't have to, the whole point of all of what we do before we get into the content is the ability for you to direct your own training and to get the most out of it. So, the idea is like, people are like, oh, you need years to train. No, not for this. You're not training for a sport. You're not training for, some type of, belt or whatever. You're acquiring a skill. It's very simple, straightforward. And then you're going to learn to apply that skill to a multitude of situations. Done and done. So tonight we're going to be talking about police response times, which was the first part of it. And then, of course, Josh sends me an email. He's like, hey, I want to talk about the McGregor fight. So, okay, yes, we're going to do that. Again, please, guys, everyone put your comments in there. We'll get to them as we're going through it. Again, thank you very much. And if you're here, you're one of the few, you're one of the proud, you're one of us. So, without further ado, let me just pull up the cancel. No, I want to do share image file. There we go. Okay. So when we talk about police response times and self-defense, and what prompted this was actually I was watching a Netflix documentary, worst neighbor, I forget the title. It's like Bad Neighbors. And, everyone, the reason why they don't take their personal safety seriously is because they feel that, well, the police will just protect me. And the reality is police are not supposed to be your bodyguards. They can't be everywhere at once. It's a reality. I mean, we support law enforcement. We train a lot of law enforcement. The fact of the matter is, most of what they deal with is dealing with a combative subject, right? So someone who doesn't comply their orders. They're not coming in to stop the crime. They're not superheroes. They're not going to be, their spidey senses aren't going to tingle. They're not going to fly in from whatever, unless they just happen to be cruising down the street. If you remember, even the shooting, where was it? The guy's like wearing the Islam property of Islam shirt down in Texas. Anyway, he was right in Austin. It was an active shooter, and the cops were right on the other corner. He still shot like 7 people. The cops were right there. The cops were right there. So again, you are responsible for your own safety of yourself and your loved ones. And the problem that we get in is that, it gets political, and people who haven't experienced real violence have no idea the reality of what happens. And then quick before we get into the monologue, Jerry checking in. Thanks again, buddy. Glad you're staying up. Awesome. So, it's like, the reality is, for decades, we've all heard the same advice, just call 911. That's good advice, but it's incomplete. So today we're going to talk about something that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. What actually happens between the moment you realize you're in danger and the moment a police officer arrives? Before we get in, let's make, again, one thing perfectly clear. This isn't an attack on law enforcement, obviously. We support the police. They do one of the hardest jobs imaginable, often with limited staffing, limited information, and impossible expectations. They don't choose to be 10 minutes away. They simply can't be everywhere at once. And in this age of like defund the police and, the police are Nazis and whatever the hell you got going on, being a cop these days, especially in a major city, God bless you. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the reality. The real question isn't whether the police are doing their jobs. The question is, what happens until they get there? So you got the Hollywood version. The movies have conditioned us to believe the police cars appear almost instantly. Someone screams, someone dials 911, sirens, problem solved. Real life doesn't work that way. First, you have to recognize what's happening, and we call that oh shit moment, where even when you feel, I mean, we'd be working, and even though you're like, hey, is this guy gonna go for it? And you're all standing there, and your job is to prevent somebody from doing something bad. And when they go for it, you're like, oh shit, he's going for it. So even when you're there expecting it, it's like, you gotta react. So, first, then you have to decide if it's so you have to see if something's happening. Then you have to decide if it's serious enough to call. Oh, and then you have to find your phone if you don't have it in your hand. Obviously, unlock it, dial 911, answer the dispatcher's questions, explain where you are, because you're going to call, people are being attacked, and be like, I'm being attacked. So, I mean, we go over this in like 60 minutes self-defense, and in our training, explain where you are, explain what's happening, hope the dispatcher understands, hope responding officers are available. Like, guys, it's not like it's not like they sit there and have instant access to locate your phone. They don't. It's not like the dispatcher gets a call and you're looking on a screen like they do in the movies and the dot shows up. No, dude, it's a guy at a desk with a potential caller ID. They'll know where generally where the phone is coming from, where the phone is registered. Because I'll call on my cell phone. They'll know I'm at my address. So, that's usually, what happens. And then, you got to hope, responding officers are available, right? Because what happens is, it's like, we always say, it's like, working in the fire department, it's like, look, dude, if there's like a fire call, like a real job in like one town, everyone and their mother's there and cops are there. It's like, it's insane. So what happens is, it's like all the resources go there, and then you could throw, you could, rob a bank, knock over a store. You could do whatever you want. And by the time the resources, get the call and you figure out who's going to be there, you turn that response time from like, 6 minutes to like 20 minutes. So, I mean, it's nuts. And then, then again, obviously you got to hope the officers are available. You got to hope they're close enough. Hope traffic cooperates, and every one of those steps takes time. Remember, stress changes everything. People love to imagine how calm they'll be during an emergency. Reality is different. When you're terrified, your brain doesn't work the same way. We talk about SNS activation, sympathetic nervous system kicking in. Fine motor skills deteriorate. Memory suffers. People forget addresses they lived at for years. You don't know. I mean, sometimes, like, especially if you're not in a familiar place, I mean, you're stressed out. You could be talking about your childhood address or your phone. You don't know where we say you don't know what comes out of you during stress. So that's
if you're even able to communicate. Some people get, it's like their first real adrenaline dump. Like they can't even function.
Right. Because one of the things that happens in that SNS activation is your cortex, your frontal lobe, like it shuts down. You're losing reason and the ability to communicate. So some of that stuff, some people black out, so it's very real to kind of, and this is where you're, when you are places, you do take note of like, cross streets and things like that. And you gotta, stage yourself to be like, okay, where am I? How do I explain, I'm at the corner of, Weston, Maine, here by this store. Then they'll know to get there. You struggle to describe where you are, you can't even lock your own phone, you lose like fine motor skills, like we said. Many people have difficulty speaking clearly under stress. None of this means you're weak. It just means you're human. The police can't teleport. One thing often overlooked is that police officers' resources are finite. Imagine a city with dozens of officers covering hundreds of square miles. Now imagine multiple crashes, domestic calls, medical assist, mental health emergencies, traffic accidents, armed robberies, missing children, domestics. Every call competes for resources. Like they said in that Bad Neighbor documentary on Netflix. The police were, the guy was like throwing bricks through, they're throwing rocks through their windows, and they're calling them, and they had a restraining order against them. But the cops are like, this is Oakland, California. The cops are like, yeah, okay, but we had a robbery homicide that we're all responding to. So yeah, so you are on your own, and keep that in mind, people, because cat up a tree, right? Right, Peyton, right, Clayton. So you're looking at, the problem is, and that we keep running into, is people are like, oh, well, what do you need a gun for self-defense for? What do you need to train for self-defense for? And it's just for exactly this. You're going to have to deal with the immediate threat by yourself. If you can't escape it and you have no choice, it's on you.
I mean, even escape is still technically dealing with it.
Yeah, right. You still have to get away. Right. Yeah. So, and that's where, and this is why, people are like, oh, you're paranoid or this or that. No, it's just a reality. I mean, you're looking at, the probability. I'm like, I've got fire insurance. I've got insurance on my car. I've got, I'm not expecting to get my house to burn down or get robbed or, get in an accident every time I go out, but there's a chance of it. So why not, put something together that gives you, a chance, and at least have some type of a plan. So remember, if every available unit is already committed, there simply isn't an officer waiting around the corner. That's not negligence. It's just mathematics. You're not going to, most communities don't, a lot of communities like to see cops. Some communities don't. The fact is, as you say, shit costs money, right? You want to have a cop on every corner. Okay, great. That's going to cost you. Oh, yeah, but we don't want to pay them. Oh, we want to defund them. Oh, okay. There you go. So now, not only are you getting less officers, you're getting poorly trained officers. And, now you get what you pay for. You want SEAL Team 6, you got to pay for SEAL Team 6. I mean, shit. And you got to treat them with respect. I mean, look, it's a hard job. My buddies that are cops we train, I'm like, look, man, I think, there should be like definite, like constant therapy, in like how to handle this stuff. So, you're expecting machines because, you're dealing with, this one time, and this is your first time, and they're dealing with stuff every day. A lot of places more than others, obviously, but still, when the fit hits the shan, they're the ones that you're going to call. And if somebody else is having a bad day and they're having a bad day first, well, guess what? You're going to have to take a number. And in towns like ours, if the resources are pulled, then you've got supporting towns, but now you're pulling from other towns, and that's fine, but that also increases distance. So that increases response time. So, response time isn't protection. This is one of the hardest truths for people to accept. Police response time is incredibly important, but response time is still response. It begins after something has already happened. If an assault lasts 20 seconds, if a robbery lasts 1 minute, if an active attack unfolds in a few minutes, even an excellent police response may still arrive after the critical moment has passed. That's why personal preparedness matters. Citizens, we have a role. Public safety isn't the responsibility of one group. It's a partnership. Police have a role. Firefighters have a role. EMS, schools, businesses, and citizens have a role. Knowing basic first aid, how to recognize danger early, having an emergency plan, understanding exits, learning verbal de-escalation, being physically capable, taking responsibility for your own immediate safety until help arrives. None of those replace the police. They bridge the gap until the police arrive. Like Peyton said, when seconds count, Clayton, I'm sorry, buddy, I keep calling you Peyton Manning. When Clayton said, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away. The police are coming, dispatchers are working, officers are driving as fast as they safely can, but they're still coming from somewhere else. The first responder for those critical moments is you. Doesn't mean to scare anyone. It's just meant to prepare them. Prepared people don't panic as easily. Prepared people make better decisions. Prepared communities are safer communities. Supporting the police doesn't mean pretending they can do the impossible. It means understanding their role and accepting your own. That's how public safety actually works. So yeah, nice. Thanks, Clayton. So yeah, I mean, you're looking at the response times at some of these places. I just want to quick share my screen. Okay, so you got highest priority in New York City is 3 to 5 minutes, but overall average call is 33 minutes. I think these are very forgiving response times. I think the response times are actually longer than this, but we'll just take it for what it is. Boston, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, Las Vegas, 5 minutes, DC, 5.3, Los Angeles, 6 minutes, historical priority 1 target. I don't know what that means. Seattle, 6 minutes, but then there's a, average all calls, 62 minutes. Nashville, see, this is more the 60s average all calls, which are blank on this side. I think that's what you're dealing with. If you're like, my neighbor's like threatening me, like these are like for the priority emergency calls are like officer down, active shooter, somebody's dead, that's what
cars on fire.
Yeah. There's a fully involved structure. There's, an MV motor vehicle accident. There's something that has happened that is catastrophic and apparent to a lot of people. Seattle, 6 minutes for violent crime calls on that, 62 minutes. Nashville, 6 minutes is 74. You see where this is going. So, I mean, the Baltimore, 9 minutes. New Orleans doesn't have anything. It's 146 minutes for all priorities. So even on the best days, you're still 6 minutes out. That's after you call 911 and tell them what's going on. So that's after dispatch gets the call, determines what resources have to go there, and sends them. Right? So, what happens with dispatch is when you call them, if it's a fire, if it's a shooting, they got to know if they got to send the ambulance. They got to know, what kind of fire trucks they got to send. They got to know, if they're sending just some uniforms, if they're sending SWAT, if they're, they got to assess all of that based on what you tell them. So that call itself is going to be a few minutes. They're going to start sending those dispatcher crews are like right away. Right. Once they feel it's a legitimate, emergency, so they'll get somebody in the area to respond. But, beyond that, it's like, they're going to like try to determine, they're going to be interviewing you to figure out, okay, what's the best amount of resources. And that's going to call. And then everybody's doing their size up for the situation, right? They're getting the information. They'll write it down. It's like, okay, what are we going to prepare for? This is what's happening. You got, so many people here, so many people there. You got, 10 people wounded, whatever we got going on. So that's what you're dealing with. So to think that, you dial 911 and the, law enforcement magically just kind of shows up.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just, it's, I don't know, man. I just,
well, and like, like a few podcasts ago, we talked about urbanization.
Yes.
Right? And how like things are going into mega cities and like just the disparity between, the percentage of law enforcement personnel to the percentage of people like that, those response times are going to continue to get larger and larger and larger as that happens.
Right. Exactly. Right. And, like you said, the police are not failing you. They're responding to you.
Yeah.
Two very different things. Their jobs begin when the jobs begin when they receive the call. Your responsibility begins when the emergency begins. Public safety
Yeah,
works best.
failure is when they choose not to respond for one reason or another.
Correct. And, and then when they respond, they, use the wrong resources and use the wrong tactics and techniques. Right. Then the training fails.
Yeah.
Right. Public safety, works best when citizens are prepared to protect themselves, their families, and those around them until help arrives. Think about this. If we had a clock on this, right? 0, threat begins. 5 to 20 seconds, you recognize there's actual danger, right? And you get to call 911. That's saying you're not the actual target. If you're the actual target, you're not going to have a chance to call, right? If the threat is immediate, it depends on where you spot the threat. But this is like best case scenario. You see a threat. You realize it's, is that guy messing around with that dude? Or what's he doing? Or do the guys know each other? Oh no, that's real. So between 20 seconds and a minute, you call 911 and speak with dispatch. Between 4 to 8 minutes more, police arrive for many high priority calls. It's like, some guy's got a gun. Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. Man. Some guy's got a gun and, blah, blah. So the reality is by the time arrives, cops may not, the incident was probably going to be over. Yeah. I got to grab some water. Hold on.
No, you're good. And I think that this piece here with the 1 to 4 minutes where dispatch process and officers respond, right? So like people don't realize that, like Damian was saying, it doesn't, like they don't know where you are. They don't know what's happening, right? They need to gather the information so they know, what resources do they actually need to send? Where are you located? Where are these people even in resources even going? All those other things. Being in the military, what comes to my mind is like the 9-line medevac, right? So like, there's a minimum amount of information you have to give before they can even do anything. Right. And this is the same with dispatchers, trying to send police or EMS or whatever. Right. Like they have to have that minimum amount of information so they can know what they're going to send. What are they going to send? Where are they sending it? They need all that information before they can do anything.
Right. Whatever you said.
I was talking about how that between you talk to dispatch, then you have 1 to 4 minutes of them getting information. Then they release the people, right? And I was equating it to like a 9-line medevac in the military where there's a minimum amount of information they need before they can even do anything, right? They need to know where, they need to know what resources they need, all those things. And they will once they get that minimum amount of information, they will start the process of sending them over, right? While they gather then the rest of the information, right? It's the same thing with a 9-line medevac where you're going to give them the first bit of information that they need. They'll start sending them en route and then they're going to get the rest of the information, right?
Right. And by the way,
it takes time.
And they still have to determine if you're not insane.
Exactly. Right. And what priority you are, right? They're triaging all these calls that are coming in and saying, okay, what's now the next priority, right?
Right. And again, and all this is based on, basically math, right? They're figuring out how many incidents they have, how many calls they have, how many, and then again, then there's still chance. It's like these people.
And
episode, the guys.
I was going to say, and recognizing that your call could get bumped down if another call comes in between there, that's even a higher priority,
Yeah, exactly. This guy who was throwing rocks through these couples' windows, they had a restraining order against him.
Yeah.
The guy is like he broke 23 of their windows. Right. And they would respond. It would take them an hour. And like, so what do you do? What do you do? Oh, by the way, spoiler alert, the father, and he wound up getting shot by this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Again, they can only, police can only do so much. In this particular case, the agency didn't handle it correctly and they wound up getting sued and they lost, as they should have, because the guy was actually threatening the guy that he's going to come back and kill him. And it's on body cam. And you're like, okay, we didn't retain this guy at all. We didn't put it in for psych eval. We didn't do anything like that. So yeah,
we didn't prioritize the call of like at a minimum of like, hey, if they call, we should prioritize this now as a 1 because he made threats, right?
Correct. Yeah. So Again, couple examples here. Just these are real world stories that see if it like hits home. It's like you got home invasion, right? Family hears glass breaking at 2 a.m. They call 911 immediately. Dispatcher stays on the line while officers respond. The intruder's inside the home for less than 2 minutes before fleeing after confronting the homeowner. The takeaway here is like even with an excellent police response, the critical event was over before officers arrived. They still did their job, secured the scene, searched the suspect, gathered evidence, but the family had to survive those first moments for themselves. I mean, we've all heard that bump in the night, right? And you're the guy. It's your job to go check the house. This is why we get paid more generally. Because we're the ones that go check the house. We're the ones that women and children first, get the lifeboats. That's how it works, right? So yeah, you go check out. You don't even know, like you're in a dead sleep. You don't even know what you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know if a tree fell. You don't know what's going on. But now somebody's in your home. If you're not clearing your house with a firearm, what are your chances? If it's nothing, you're going to call the cops, but then they're going to, you don't know, even in this scenario, then to call the cops as soon as you got that oh shit moment. And still, I mean, it says like response time 2 minutes. Response time is going to be like 6 to 8 minutes, even in my town. So, looking at something like even a restaurant, an argument escalates in a crowded restaurant. Within seconds, punches are thrown in chairs because, several people instinctively pulled out their phones to record instead of calling 911. By the time officers arrive, fight is ended. Participants have dispersed. Police respond to these emergencies, but if witnesses hesitate to call, the response clock hasn't even started.
Mm-hmm.
So think about that. You're getting attacked. How many people are going to call 911 as opposed to video it to fucking hope it goes viral? Right? I'm like, hopefully you'd be thinking we call a 911 to save you. But the reality is the world we live in, most of these people just want to freaking, look for, clickbait that they can post.
Yeah, we talk a lot about the bystander effect, right? Where people are just watching, pulling out their phones. Like, man, it's wild.
Yeah. I'm like, dude, and it's like, because they're like not even involved. They're just watching it. Mm-hmm. And they're not there. They don't even realize that it's a real person fighting for their life. And again, these are obviously, you've got evidence all over. Yeah, Clayton, 6 to 8 minutes can be an eternity. We used to say, it's like, respond. I go, think about it. 6 to 8 minutes. Oh, it's not too bad. Yeah, underwater. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, that's what you're doing this guy. Yeah. So they have like things like school medical emergency, student collapses from sudden cardiac arrest. Teachers don't wait for paramedics. Somebody calls 911 and either choose the AED. CPR begins immediately. EMS arrives several minutes later and continues care.
Mm-hmm.
Why people just say, just wait for the ambulance. We teach CPR because immediate action saves lives. All teachers, all coaches, we all know CPR. You know, it's personal safety follows the same principle. Right. I'm like, it's, it's not right. I'm like, it's like, oh, yeah, we want to do this to save lives. We don't want to do it to protect ourselves because there's a, because, there's a chance of, getting, it involves violence and most people just rather not think about it. Typical, another is obviously active shooter incident. Many active shooter incidents are over within just a few minutes, either because the attacker flees, dies by suicide, or is confronted before police arrive. Modern law enforcement has dramatically improved tactics since Columbine. Today, officers are trained to move towards the threat as quickly as possible, unless you're living in Uvalde.
I knew that was going to come up.
Morons. I'm like, how? How? I'm just
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. But yeah, even with highly trained officers responding, and look, when you hear active shooter, everyone's coming.
Mm-hmm.
That is the fastest response time you're gonna get.
Yeah.
Is active shooter. I mean, everyone they trained for it, they're ready for it. That's like they're waiting for the radio. They're like ready to go. But even then, minutes. And you also have to have the school resource officers actually do their job. I had a niece who was in Stoneman Douglas. She was a freshman. That dude was nowhere to be found. And it wasn't like he was confronting somebody. He was a 19-year-old kid shooting up the school. He was a veteran cop. So, it wasn't like he was, facing an assault team. He's facing a freaking kid with a rifle.
Yeah.
So, again, obviously then, the rural response, deputy, in rural America may be covering hundreds of square miles overnight. Homeowner calls 911 after discovering attempting, break into a detached garage. For example, the nearest deputy is literally 25 miles away because they're already handling another emergency. Again, it isn't poor policing. It's geography and limited resources.
Yeah, I mean, you might have like, you're talking about really rural spaces. You might have 4 highway patrol / state patrol officers covering like 400 miles.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like, good luck.
Yeah, I mean, most of the people who live in these areas carry firearms and have firearms because of just simply that reason. I mean, people, look at, farmhouses and shit like, you're a predator. Yeah. You got, I got to deal with this guy. Then that's it. That's why they don't call 911. And yeah, most people in suburbs and, cities don't understand that, that mentality. But, still going to need it because, if the guys, if the resources are thin, I mean, it's still going to be, again, it's not going to be 6 minutes in New York City, dude. You're like 15, 20 minutes. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I just want to give a quick shout out to Joe J. Hey, Joe J. Thanks for that, that plug. That was awesome.
Oh man. Thanks, Joe. Awesome. Thanks, brother. That's awesome. Yay. So, yeah. So, again, like you mentioned before, imagine you're the dispatcher, right? You're answering 911, what's your emergency? And all you're hearing is screaming, right? You don't know the address. You don't know the number of suspects. You don't know whether a weapon is involved. You don't know whether the caller is hiding, whether the call disconnected. I mean, you have to gather information while simultaneously dispatching officers. So, remember, dispatchers, if they're good, are extraordinary professionals, but they cannot send help, as you said before, until they know where help is needed and what they're dealing with. It's like right now, as an example, without looking at your phone, what's your home address? What's your nearest cross street? How many seconds would it take you to unlock your phone under stress?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. It's a great point. People have like those little patterny ones that they do. Oh man, good luck doing that under stress.
Right. That's why in like 60-minute self-defense, we do try to dial 911 under stress. And they're like, yeah, do your kids know how to dial 911? Could your spouse describe your location if they were panicking?
Yeah.
Then, most people think they're prepared until they actually go through the process. And then honestly, just going through the process is like, that's your training. Like when you're someplace, it's like, look around. What are the cross streets? What are the exits? Where am, what is the name of the restaurant? Like, say it to yourself. Believe me, dude, I walked into restaurants. We sat down. I'm like, all of a sudden I forget where the hell I am.
I'm terrible, especially with my my concussion issues where I can't remember crap anymore. I get to places and I'm like, I'll look at the sign and be like, yeah, that's where I'm at. And then literally 5 seconds later, I'm like, I have no idea where I'm at.
Right. Right. So it's like actually just kind of like going through, okay, I'm at I'm at Saddle River Inn. Okay, it's in East Allendale Ave. Okay, good. All right. Okay, yeah. Okay, I know where I'm at. Shit like that.
Yeah.
It's like, look, we buy smoke detectors because the fire department can't be in our kitchen when our fire starts. We're seatbelts because an ambulance can't arrive before a crash. We learn CPR because paramedics are minutes away. Personal safety works the exactly same way. Being prepared isn't about replacing first responders. It's about, again, bridging that gap until they arrive.
Surviving until they can get there.
And that's what you train for. People mostly a lot of times think they're like, oh, you're not gonna, dude, it's not a title fight.
No.
Right? My resistance is increasing the cost benefit analysis that this piece of shit has calculated, and then he's got to recalculate till he figures like, okay, this is too much of a problem. I'm gonna break contact and get off. That's what the majority of this stuff is gonna be. Right? It's not going to be you fighting to the death in the octagon.
No. Or you creating the space so you can get away.
Exactly. So, and that's where, that's where a lot of the, a lot of this misconception is. And I think that's a reason why a lot of people avoid even exploring it, because they think like, oh, I don't want to have to go, train for the kumite or do whatever, and and then you've got self-defense gurus telling them, oh, you need 10 50, you need to do all this, then spend all this money, all this time. It's like, oh my god, why? I'm like, no, you don't. It's insane.
Well, and then I think there's also the thing too where people they fear the confrontation, but then the thought of fearing the confrontation then creates anxiety. So then they don't want to confront the confrontation by training. Right.
Right. Yeah.
And so then they're like, well, it's easier just to pretend like it's not ever going to happen.
Right. And you know what? You could go through life and it might not happen. Right. There's a very good chance. And, that's fine. But the problem is you're also having the anxiety of it happening, and that weighs on you. I mean, look, especially being a guy, I mean, I listen, it's like, our job, and that's what Clayton said. It's like, being was it Clayton or was it who said being a dude is a dangerous job? I think that was Clayton.
I think it was Clayton.
Yeah. So being a dude is a dangerous job if you take your job seriously. Right? I'm like, something happens. It's like dad handles it. The man handles it. That's how it works. Yeah. If you can't handle it or you don't have a plan for it, that's not you gotta be some badass. You just have to have a plan and some courage, and to step up. If you don't, I think that leads to a lot of anxiety. And I think that's we get a lot of problems. With people like trying to function and they don't know what's missing. And the missing is, what's missing is, your self-reliance.
Yeah. I think it says a lot about our current society here in America. And I assume lots of other places in the world where women are the number one consumers of self-defense type training and tools and things like that, and have been for the last couple of years, because it's really? Like, well, if guys aren't stepping up and doing what women are expecting, well, they got to feel safe too, right? So now they're taking it into their own hands,
right?
But yeah, I know in firearms it's like significantly more
that happened a lot too during COVID.
Yeah,
that was big.
So, and I like most of the people that I get interested in doing like in-person training are women. Like most guys are like, sure, I'm good, I don't need it, but women are like, yeah, no, I want to train. And it's funny because a lot of times I'll talk to like their husbands and stuff, and I'm like, hey, the fact that they wanted to come do training means that you're probably not fulfilling that security requirement for them.
That's, yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, I don't want to like it makes them feel like a certain way, which it should, right?
Right.
It's like, and yeah, granted, they might just want to be able to defend themselves, which is great. Everybody should be able to, right? But,
absolutely.
But there is something to be said for the fact that it's like you decided you didn't need this training and your
Right.
wife did, like, what does
Right.
that say, you know? Like,
Right. But again, you know, it's like, you know, oh, send my wife, you know, I'll just, but yeah, dude, no, not happening. You know, I'm like, you know, it's like, yeah, exactly, Jerry. The older I get, I get prepared to let the dog out. Yeah. I'm walking out. I'm running, grab my shovel, grab my pepper spray, grab my gun, grab my knife. I'm like, oh, grab my, you know, if it depends on where I'm going. If I'm taking armor with me, if I'm just doing an airport run, I don't, because I'm going to be sitting in the car. But it's like, yeah, strapped. I'm go. Okay, let's go. That's what I do.
I get out of bed and the first thing in my pocket is my pocket knife. I get out of bed, put my pants on, my pocket knife goes in my pocket. Like,
yeah.
Before anything else, that's what happens.
It's like, why? I'm like, why am I not? You're going to your mom's house. I'm like, yeah, dude, I got to go on a highway and I got to freaking put. I'm like, who the hell knows who knows what I'm going to run into? Right? I just want to have, listen, again, better to have it, not need it, than need it, not have it.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So next, you want to talk about Conor McGregor fight?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to play it first, or
were you able to find a clip? I didn't check. Okay, cool. Yeah, let's play it.
Okay.
It's only 69 seconds.
Right. So everyone can see. You can see?
Yeah.
As Max Holloway moves up to 170 pounds to welcome McGregor back to the proving ground. McGregor trying to get off to a fast start is in green.
Keeps falling. Conor fell twice trying to throw those kicks.
Oh, good right hand from Holloway.
Now watch his right leg. He steps on it and right there.
Oh, yep. Yep, you can see it already.
Right
Yep,
there.
you can see it in his face. You saw it. You saw it in his face whenever he did it.
My gosh.
And then he tries to throw it again, and
Oh,
it
just
buckles
buckles.
and gives out on him
Every
again,
time.
and he winces in pain. It's his right knee.
Okay.
Yeah, they didn't show the one after that, which is the Superman punch that comes after that.
Let me see if there's another one. This is let me see this one.
The hotter you are, the crazier
It's
you
funny.
can be. Men will put up with it. But the opposite is
We know
also
Jordan is funny.
2 inches, the difference at 5. Start is in green. McGregor back to the proving ground. McGregor trying to get off to a fast start is in green.
Keeps falling. Conor fell twice trying to throw those kicks.
Oh, good right hand from Holloway. Oh, there's a third slip.
What's going on with his leg?
He's like, is this
Yeah.
over? He's like,
I mean, look, Max Holloway's a good dude, man. You know what I mean? He's a sportsman. He's like,
yeah,
there's something wrong here. He's not. This is
you
not.
can tell, you know, yeah.
Yeah, not good.
Like he's not even like dogging him.
Wrong with his leg.
Yeah.
And that's that leg. It's the
You know,
leg
he's like,
that
look
he
at,
throws.
you know, I mean, what a gentleman, really.
That's gonna do it.
Yeah,
Oh, my
for
goodness.
sure.
Yeah, I'm like, you know, you look at that, and we just get back to the original. Just put that on the screen. So, let's see if we get that. Okay. So yeah, we are streaming Facebook this spin. Oh, my Facebook. I gotta edit. Hold on. Keep going.
Okay. So for anybody who's wondering, so the reason why I want to talk about this was I thought it was absolutely ridiculous that he came out with a jumping kick like that. But mostly just to show that, hey, that's the reason why we don't teach kicks above the waist.
Right. Yes.
Because like that could happen so easily. We're talking about a guy who probably has trained that kick, who knows how many times, and probably has kicked people with it successfully, knocked them out. And
right.
yet here you go, fails him, right? And now, you know, you try that in the street, quote unquote, you know, a self-defense scenario, and I mean, who knows, we're gonna land on, you know, pebbles, sand, I mean, anything, and you end up on the ground with a guy who's way less of a sportsman.
Yeah, for sure. You know,
And then to get up and do it again, Didn't make any
Well,
sense
here's
to
the
me.
thing. So, yeah, an ostrich. Nice. Here's the thing. So I was listening to another medical doctor talking about this. And it could be ACL, could be torn meniscus. I mean, I have a meniscus issue. I've torn my ACL. I know what happens in this. Like, you don't necessarily feel pain, but what happens is that you lose that stability. So every time he was putting weight on it from that point forward, there's nothing there. There's nothing to hold it. That's why he's dropping down.
Yeah.
So yeah, as far as like doing this is why, obviously this is why you don't do that kind of shit. I mean, like in the ring, you're like, it's the ring, right? I know he's trying to open up. You know, who knows if he had an existing injury, whatever. But yeah, to your point, you know, doing these things with these complex movements, you would never even think about doing that on, imagine doing that on an uneven surface,
Right.
you know, where, you know, you don't know what your boot's going to get. Because what happens is when these things happen is like your foot gets caught in the surface and then your body moves and torques. So all that goes on your knee. And you see, like, there's called, like, when you see, you know, non-contact injuries, that's what usually happens. Like when the receivers like making a cut and all of a sudden they fall, pop, that's done. You know, they're saying this was like the Aaron Rodgers moment of MMA. But I don't know if anyone, you know, any of our football fans out there, you know, saw like when Aaron Rodgers made his big comeback. You know, he's playing for the Jets after the Packers, and then third play just dropped back and, you know, got tackled towards his Achilles, and that was it. Like, you know, first game of the season, first drive. So yeah, it's like you know, probably could have been a reoccurring injury, you know, could have been a recent injury, but who knows? But the reality is, like, things like this, you know, put your body in unstable positions.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know, so and that's why, like, you avoid all of this.
Yeah. And that's really what I wanted to point out was like, man, like, you know, here's a professional in a like professional setting, and
Right.
that was the result, you know?
Right.
And it's
no one
like,
laid
man,
no one laid a hand on it. Yeah, no one laid a hand on it.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, we're just like, look, I mean, you know, I'm a McGregor fan. I think Max Holloway is like, you know, for just comment on like just being a true gentleman and not an asshole. You know, he knows this guy's hurt. You know, when you're a fighter and you're competing, you know, like when something's wrong with this guy. And it's interesting because you think that the one thing you would do is like, oh, that's your chance to kill him. But you really don't want to do that. No. You know, you want a fight. I want to get you at your best.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I want to, you know, if you're injured, unless I injure you by, even if I'm hitting you, or, you know, it's like, if I can see you can't defend yourself, I'm going to stop.
Right. Yeah. Well, and it's another thing too, if you cause the injury through like your actions, right? And you're just like, that was the natural process, versus you saw something happen that was completely unexpected and you're just like, whoop. You know?
But even then, you know, if you're pulling a dude and he can't defend himself, you're gonna
stop. Oh, for sure. And how many of, like, almost all of them start backing off, looking at the
fighters are like looking at the ref, like,
yeah, are you gonna stop this? Like, you want me to keep going?
Yeah. I'm like, and that's what, you know, you really, you know, and seeing like this, and that's a look, and that's like, and then how effective was he after that? You can't even stand, can't even walk. Yeah. You know, so you're like, you know, something like that. You think about that. What happens to you in the street? Right? I'm like, yeah. So
and the other part that I wanted to talk about it too was he got up and he tried it again. You know, obviously he's not registering maybe the instability of this, you know, the severity of the injury that he just sustained. But in my mind, I'm like, you just tried a high kick, you possibly got hurt, but at a minimum fell, and you're going to try it again. And then you fell again. And I'm just like, oh, no, but you get so locked in your brain.
Correct.
Like, this is what I'm going to do. Right. That's the point I wanted to make. You get slow. Like, I'm going out and I'm going to kick this dude. And that's what I'm going to do. So he tries it again.
And think about that, relate that back to training. right?
Exactly.
If you're training that way and you're injured and you're looking at the best fighter in the world under stress, you know, you're going to go to your training. He's like, oh, this is what I would do here. Dude, I tore my knee up. You know, I'm like, I'm still playing and I'm trying to cut and I can't cut and I can't push off. I'm still trying to. Trust me. You know, and it's not like I was like, oh, it's like you knew you're injured. But again, this was, of course, over a football game. This wasn't a fight. So a fight's a lot more condensed. You know, so you know something's wrong.
Yeah, something's not right.
And you're programmed to do it. And he wasn't going to quit.
Yeah.
You know, until they're like, he's like, what are we doing? And he, you know, I'm like, yeah. But, you know, I just you know, you're looking at, you know, something, and then it's like, again, getting back to your point, in sport, you have that luxury of stopping the fight.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, you're like, okay, ref's there. You know, we're good. He's going to take, you know, he took care of you. You stopped it. You're all good. Man. Right? And then, yeah, that's what happened. But even though it's not an MMA show, I don't know if you saw I want to talk about Gable Steveson because the dude's an absolute unit. Okay. So if you guys don't know who Gable Steveson is, he's a former NCAA wrestler, Olympic champion, you know, heavyweight, amazing athlete, you know, actually had like a couple of NFL tryouts. I mean, really, you know, this is a tune-up match. This is a learning match. Again, elite, best in the world wrestler. Okay. When you watch this fight, what does he not do?
1 inch to 206, 4 inches.
Okay. Yeah, let's just start him.
A tip chokes whenever you look like he's gonna wrestle.
Oh, big left hand from Stevenson.
Big left hand by Stevenson.
Nice knee by Gable. There's another
Nasty knees to the body by Gable.
good elbow from Ellison now.
This base is crazy. That front kick is killing the life.
Oh,
Oh,
Ellison is getting tired too.
They're both getting tired.
cracking right hand from Stevenson. A return knee from Ellison.
Elijah's firing back.
Oh,
Big
it's a
left
big
hook.
left. Oh, a huge knee from Stevenson. Ellison nearly out on the feet.
That's it.
That will do it.
yeah, dude. So what you're seeing is a guy working on his striking. You're not seeing a guy that's just trying to win a fight. He's working out.
Right. Yeah, he didn't do like any grappling, basically.
No, so just so you have an idea, you know, of what, like, he could have just taken this guy down and like Ronda Rousey'd him and in like 2 seconds. Like,
Yeah.
just wrestled him and then ground and pound him like Bo Nickel does. And Bo Nickel's awesome. I'm a huge fan, but you're watching somebody like trying to develop themselves. Here's a little highlight reel. He's just like, you know, just working out here, but yeah, I mean, you're looking at a dude who's explosive.
Yeah.
Insane.
Moves really good for his size.
Yeah, dude. I mean, he does a handspring backflip as a celebration.
Yeah.
And one of the things he does great, which is going to make him so dangerous, is that a lot of times he shoots from space or shoots like from the from the tie up as you're going to grab. So as you're throwing a punch, he's going to take it down, and he's going to get, he's just going to control the shit out of you. I mean, really, just like, this kid is just like amazing, explosive. And there again, he probably, like, submission's going to come easy to him. He's probably already got an awesome defense. He's working out with John. Yeah. He's working out with John's Bones Jones. So, you know, I mean, it's just explosive and strong. I mean, you're not stopping that shit. You know, I'm like, just like, I don't know, man. You know, I'm kind of, you know, excited about what he's gonna do.
Yeah,
it'd be
for
good
somebody
to have-
his size, he wrestles like somebody a lot lighter.
yeah, man, it's freaking nuts. You know, I mean, he look, here you go.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, there's that.
That's
So,
wild.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, dude, that's like every freaking, you know, he's nuts, man. So, yeah, I'm like, you know, that's what the UFC needs, to be honest, is like a good heavyweight. And honestly, like a good American heavyweight. I hate to say it, you know, because that's kind of, you know, it's a lot where the market is. It's like boxing, you know, like when boxing has like a good American heavyweight, boxing does well. You know,
Yeah.
like, I think, you know, who's the last one? Was it Tyson? Was it, you know, I mean,
Who is an American? Yeah, probably.
yeah, yeah. Think about it. You know, that was like kind of like the end of that era. So, yeah, man. So good. Hey, see if we got any questions on here. A lot of good comments, guys. Again, Joe, awesome to have you. Clayton, as always, awesome. Jerry, you know, Texas Tactical. President C. Ismail, awesome, man. Glad to have you here. We lost our Facebook feed. I don't know what happened there. I'm gonna yell at StreamYard. But awesome.
Probably
Awesome.
Facebook's fault. Let's be real.
Yeah, exactly. As soon as I started playing the videos, they cut it out. So who knows?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So anyway, man, awesome pod. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining us. Should be here next week. The following week, I'm going to be off. I think I'm on vacation. I don't know if you want to do that by yourself. Whatever you want to do, that's fine.
Yeah, I'll probably be on it.
Sweet. All right, man. So everybody, thanks again for joining us. Until next time, train honestly.